all the new Fusion apps, you know, the HCM cloud and all that kind of stuff. That's what this stuff is built on. They build their apps using ADF. So it's all Java-based. It's very, very rich functionality, and J.D. Edwards decided to take advantage of and put several apps that they can't do in the native FDA, like some of the graphs, some of the other type of activities, the Workday Calendar, they put that in there. The Orchestrator Studio is another prime example. So in addition to that, they use the UX-One, with a composed page, it can call an ADF application. But one of the things with ADF runtime is it is WebLogic only. So if you have WebSphere, you would have to have a Tech Foundation license to run WebLogic. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have WebSphere. And I've got customers, as a matter of fact, that have IBM AS400s. They're 100% WebSphere for their web, their AIS and all that. But the ADF and the Orchestrator have to be on WebLogic. So I'm not a licensed guy. I'm just a tech guy. And you can figure all that stuff out, but you put those into the WebLogic components. And the other piece it has, it's a little different if you're familiar with the Jazz server. It uses what's called WebLogic infrastructure or Fusion middleware infrastructure. The WebLogic basic server is just an application container. So it runs the web, runs Jazz, runs AIS. This requires a little bit more. It requires a database repository. So it runs a subset of what they call enterprise manager components. So that's what's called a JRF, a Java runtime facility. But the nice thing about it is, again, depending on what releases you're on, primarily at first it was Oracle database for the repository, then they've moved it up, and now they have blessed SQL Server as well. So if you're a SQL Server shop, makes things a little nicer that you don't have to get an Oracle database. But I'll show you a little trick. I'm probably pushing the runtime license a little bit, but like if you're an AS400 type of shop, iSeries, you probably don't have an Oracle database. So I'll show you a way that using the OEE Enterprise Edition that comes with your fact clients or your deployment server, use that as a repository. At least from ADF itself, you know, it started in Tools 9.2.1.1, and again, you get the ones that J.D. Edwards delivers, but if you want to, and some customers have done this, you can create your own custom ADF applications, just like Oracle does. There is an investment, you know, there's training, or maybe use a consultant firm to help you do that, but you can create your own ADF apps, and J.D. Edwards can readily use those. From a tool standpoint, it does require the Java developer or JDeveloper tool set. So if you're familiar with business services, JDeveloper is what's used to manage the Java side. So I do highly recommend, though, you know, where we're at today, at least considering the 12.2.1.x versions of that, you do have to have an AIS and a Jazz server in order for ADF is when it's running as an application, it's going to J.D. Edwards. So like some of the applications might have look up a business unit or a UDC or something of that nature. So it's got to talk to J.D. Edwards to get that information. So just to give the background again about some of these apps, the Workday Calendar, you know, it's actually been out. It was the first ADF app for J.D. Edwards. You know, what it was giving you is a nice visual calendar. I've got a screenshot of it here after this, but it allowed you to look at resourcing of the workloads in the work centers. So you could actually see if a work center was overcommitted, it might be in red, and say, okay, you're putting too many hours on that particular work center. And you could literally, some of the newer levels of it, you could drag and drop and move it over to an underutilized work center without having to do the application screens and look at the numbers and figure it out manually. So that's a good example of using that. There is a good doc, tells you how to set it all up, what tools releases. One of the things about this is there is a stair-stepping. So if you're taking advantage of a certain version of Work Center, you may have to have certain ESUs. You have to have certain tools to do that. And again, another reference doc just to help you pull that stuff together. That's the one I mentioned that J.D. Edwards put out, was the installation of these ADF components, how to do it. So there's an example again, quick screenshot, but you know, what I talked about where you're doing overcapacity, the red, and they could literally just drag pieces down into other places to reschedule that. One of my favorites, though, Orchestrator Studio. It used to be called IoT Orchestrator Studio. Again, it came out in 9.202, and it does work for apps 9.02 and above, 9.1, 9.2. It is a standalone app, so it's got its own URL. It's not really contained within JD Edwards, but if you wanted to, you could create a page or something or compose page, link to it, come to it that way. I got to participate in Orchestrator version 1 3 years ago. That was XML files. We had to go in and type and create our own files, get our tags right, make sure we got our arrows in the right place, our end tags, all that fun stuff. So the studio has made that job much, much easier. You don't have to know XML or any of that type of stuff that it's doing under the covers. So if you go to 9.205, you need to have Orchestrator version 3. Again, they kind of stair-step and stay in tune with each other. If you went to 9.224, there was version 6.02. So again, they work together. And then, like I said, 9.212, if you're not on that tools release and you're wanting ADF, definitely try to be on 9.212 or above. It'll just make your install much easier. So here's a couple examples, like this is version 6.02. It's got notifications, and orchestration with its service request and so forth. Again, very visual, very interactive, easy application to use. Then UX-One. Again, this UX-One is for apps 9.2 only. But that became available in tools 9.2.1. UX-One is kind of more like, I'm not sure I call it a framework, but it's like a congregation or multiple elements all put together. It's not one single thing, it's not one UDO. So the alerts are watch list. The analyze would be the jet graphs, the pretty visuals that you get. And then the springboard off to the right is the applications that you're launching to be able to act and take action on that. And then all that, though, is contained on a composed page. So they put all those elements on a composite page or composed page. Some people have the misperception that if I do UX-One, I have to do ADF. And that's not really true. If you want to do Orchestrator, yes, you have to do that. But if let's say you're not using the bill of material where used or the work center or any of those applications, if those roles don't use it, you don't have to install it. It just doesn't run if it's not there. What I'm driving at there is there's only 10 applications for ADF. There's 50 plus roles. Not all those roles are using ADF applications. So it's just something to keep in mind. JD Edwards delivers UX-One roles. So when you're on you have to, again, be on 9.2 apps. But they delivered initially like 42. Now it's up to 52 at this point. And so what the roles are, the typical security role, just like you give a user. And with those roles, there is security on all the UDOs they delivered. So that role then can execute mobile composed pages, all the elements, the advanced queries, maybe personalized forms, the jet graphs, all that. So they define that. What makes that easy is you download that. Of course, JD Edwards gives that to you. You're not being charged extra beyond your normal licensing for that. So you can take that role and just literally give it to somebody if you needed to, or copy certain elements of it, maybe give them subsets of that from a security standpoint. There's a UX-One deployment and development guide. So they're delivering, I think the UDOs now, the user-defined objects, it's maybe 2,800, 3,000. There's a lot of stuff there. If you've taken update 2 and then you get current on top of that, quite a very, very rich amount of UDOs that they've given you. They took all that together in update 2 and they called a update 2 UDO bundle. So if you're a CNC, look into using the bundle. Or if you're doing an upgrade or an install, look at their new one-click on-premise provisioning, or if you're going to cloud, use their one-click provisioning. The one-click provisioning, what they're doing there is giving you a complete system, and they update it supposedly about maybe every quarter or at least twice a year. It'll have all this stuff already there. The servers, everything. It'll all be loaded. You won't have to get yourself fixed current. You won't have to load all the, these ESUs, the UDOs, and all that. It'll be to a certain point in time. So, makes me smile as a CNC. Takes a couple, 2-3 weeks out of the process. The other support doc is how to install the ADF applications. Again, I try to put a lot of these documents in here because I know it's a lot of fun trying to find things. The new Learn JDE is making this easier. And here's an example. Again, the alert, analyze, and act. So, got our watch list. This one's the lot start manager role.